G'day everyone, this is part 2 of the series looking into a custom space saver wheel option for the Geely EX5, and today we'll be looking at different jacks that are available and also the jacking points. I've assembled 3 types of jacks. The first one is a 2-ton bottle jack. This one was purchased from Bunnings for $35. The second one is a 2.5-ton scissor jack that was purchased from eBay for about $30. And the third jack I have is a 1.2-ton scissor jack. This comes off my other vehicle, which is a Mazda CX-9. So having a look at the bottle jack first, on first view it looks quite stable. The base is quite wide. The issue with this though, if I put it under the vehicle, is whether the space here, so between here and the bottom of the car, whether this bottle jack is low enough to put under the car should I have a flat tire. Now let's measure the sidewall. So we can see here that the sidewall is roughly, well at the moment it's sitting at about say 9 centimeters, but we know after doing the calculations that the sidewall is about 11 to 12, so let's call it 11 centimeters. So if I added 11 centimeters to this jack, unfortunately this bottle jack will not fit under the car should I have a complete flat and this tire were completely squashed in. So unfortunately that bottle jack is not going to work. You could potentially use a more squat bottle jack, so one that's wider but lower, but from what I've seen online they are quite expensive. So unfortunately this bottle jack is not going to work. Having a look at the 2 scissor jacks. This is the one I purchased from eBay for about $30. I can see that the quality of this one is not the best. It doesn't seem all that stable on the ground, and also there seems to be a bit of play in this. So probably not the best quality, so don't think I'll be using that one. This jack here, 1.2 ton, comes from my Mazda CX-9. So this one, you can see much more stable. The base is wider, there's no play in it. So this is the one that I will use to jack up the car. Now, interestingly, it's a 1.2 ton jack. A lot of people think that you need to have a jack that's greater than the weight of the vehicle. In other words, our Geelys are about 1.8 ton roughly. So that would suggest that perhaps I need a 2 ton, but that is not necessarily correct, because this jack, don't forget, comes from a Mazda CX-9, a 2017 model, and the weight of that is more than 2 ton. So it weighs more than the Geely EX5, and this is the jack that comes from it. So I would suggest that this jack is perfectly sufficient for jacking up the Geely. Okay, so where are we going to place this jack? Well, if you have a look under the vehicle, you'll see that there is an arrow right there. I'm not sure if you can pick that out, hopefully you can, but there's an arrow right there. So that would suggest that where this chassis rail is here, we need to place the jack roughly there. But you can see that underneath the Geely, it is not particularly smooth. So it's going to be a case of finding a smooth area under here. And I would suggest that probably this bit here seems to be a bit of a, right there, a bit of a wider area and quite smooth. So I'm going to put the jack in that position right there. Moving to the front end, let's have a look under the car, and you will see under here that there is also an arrow, so right there. So roughly in this space in here is where you would sight the jack if you were jacking up the front. Now I'll go ahead and jack up the back of the vehicle. When you are jacking it up, it's a good idea to just manually wind it up by hand first until it reaches the bottom, and then what we're looking for is that smooth, somewhat smooth spot on the chassis rail underneath to jack it up. So that is where you can see I will put it. Come around this side, have a look, and you can see that the arrow is actually over here, but I'm just slightly over, and that'll be fine. I've just jacked up the back of the car. You can see that there's space under the rear tire, so it's definitely jacked up. I'll also show you where I've placed the jack under the vehicle. Now, when using a scissor jack, or any jack for that matter, it's important to use it on level ground. If you do need to change the tyre and it's not level, it's a good idea to drive a little bit further down the road until you find a suitable flat area where you can jack up the car safely. What I've also purchased is a torque wrench. This one comes from Super Cheap Auto and it's Mech Pro brand. A torque wrench is not mandatory, it's optional. It's a good idea to ensure that you don't over tighten the lugs. If you don't have a torque wrench, then what you should do is just use a regular wheel brace. This one's an extendable one, so I just would not extend it and tighten it that way, and then recheck the tightness after 50 kilometers. So after changing the wheel, drive 50 kilometers and then recheck the tightness of the lugs. If you have a torque wrench, then of course you can be assured that the tightening is at the correct torque. What I've also done is put together a small package of these rubber coated screws. So these are handy if you get the common type of puncture caused by a nail or a screw. So what you would do is use the pliers to pull out the nail or screw, and then using these rubber coated screws, you would then use the screwdriver to plug the hole. You can watch YouTube videos on how they are used and how effective they are. So with this package, in combination with my space saver wheel, I think I'm covered for the vast majority of situations where I would need to keep moving after a puncture.